Hey, you have a bone, lay down. I don't like that at all. Welcome, ghouls, demons, and fellow weird ones, and let's drink some moon juice. I am obsessed with this tea, Todd. I just want to throw it out there. I can't wait for the moon juice tea to be made, but your step into fall has been a perfect placeholder while I await the moon juice. So everyone just needs to know how wonderful, how wonderful my Scorpio tea man is. I was trying to get through that yesterday and I just kept feeling so awkward about it. And it went into this whole meltdown, which is why I talked about a lot of the things that I talked about yesterday, which is just a very Scorpio thing. And so then that goes into some of the death energy and the symbolism of the post that I made of this whole transformation essence of things on that. So that would have been All Hallows Eve, October 30th. They call it Devil's Night in Detroit, which I thought was a really interesting thing. It's the only place in the globe that calls it that. I don't know, it's a really weird synchronicity of the initiations you go through intuitively within your life, whether you're conscious of it or not. The consciousness just helps navigate a little bit better. You take control in a way. You direct your will, so to speak. But anyway, it's a really natural thing, and in reflection, it's amazing to think about how all of this was meant to happen. It's written in my story, and now I'm writing my own story, but there is still that experience of the necessity that got me here to this state of awareness. Every time I think about it, I hate saying to be grateful for the trauma, because I also firmly believe that it did not have to be like that. I say that all the time. It had to happen that way. It was the only way. I had to put myself through those trials and tribulations. I had to face those temptations. I had to go to war. I had to see the monsters of the world in order to be where I'm at now. With you get through the dark tunnel and you come out. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Those synchronicities. So if we're talking about death energy and change and this transformation of what I am, I feel like I know I'm a completely different person to myself, to a lot of people, but I also have never felt more me than I've ever been. And I've said that multiple times. Just throughout multiple areas of my journey, it's everything is it's authentic. I've made genuine decisions and learned really hard lessons, but I have always, I've come from a genuine place, and there's a lot of embarrassment that comes from that, of I shouldn't have been so stupid, and then that shows in my anger, and the problem that I have is why are people so stupid? Because it's also a reflection of myself. But it's also why is the world the way it is with things that are not a reflection of me, but the inversion of me. So if I am facing my highest self is facing my worst self, which is what people I think confuse a twin flame relationship with. And it just gets into definitions. Maybe semantics. It's perspective. So if your definition of twin flame is in a different direction, then we might need to clear up what I mean by twin flame, because I know that that's a really fucking hair. That's a touchy subject. I don't think people are having the same conversation when utilizing that word. Because it's twin flames. It's you don't want a twin flame journey. It's the worst relationship ever. No, that's a karmic relationship. A twin flame is you facing. It is facing the mirror, but mirroring yourself is also mirroring the worst parts of yourself at the same time. However, like a karmic, that is just a true villain. That's a true villain. And there's good karma and bad karma, so to speak, right? There's a like pole of like what karmic connections could be, and they could be both at the same time. Which I hope people are following what I mean by all of that, because that's a big part of what's so hard about this, and why I journal about it all the time in this analysis of healing this insane experience that altered me in so many ways, and where it rooted, like just how it blew the fuck up. Like just coming to the conclusion of truth of like that happened and processing it. It's amazing to me how long it's taken me to process everything that has ever happened to me, and realizing that a lot has happened, and that is where there is this anger that needs to be addressed and is worth expressing, which I expressed in a few videos I was recording the other day. I'm not too sure how the timing of this will come out for everyone, but it was this anger, which is sadness of like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why are people hurting people? Because I tend to project or believe that people are inherently good. Like, why wouldn't you be? It's just really weird to me how unfair and malicious people can be, because it's like you can't, so that it's either you're that stupid or there's something else. And I have had to face that like within myself, like and what by stupid, that's probably not like, when I say stupid, I mean like willful ignorance, like malicious, bad intention, like gaslighting, like you're playing fucking dumb, you're playing dumb in my fucking face. Like you really can't just be honest. You're willing to take it that far. And then because you're willing to take it that far, this is how far I guess I am willing to take it. So it's admitting in that like really intense accountability of how you co-created this. And again, my firm belief of like why I had to follow it through to the bitter end until it cracked me in the way that it did. There was an interesting, not schizophrenic, okay, I promise, but voice, but just like, you have to do this. Like, here's a piece of the puzzle, but there was strategy in there, and there was this intuitive drive, and it wasn't maliciously intended. And that's where I'm trying to get into, I guess, some like deep human behavior or intuitive, like, I don't know how to describe this, but like I knew I had to commit to this experience. For my evolutionary, I had to suffer. I chose suffering intentionally, because every time I didn't want to make that decision, because it was like, dude, this is not what I want. It's like, but you have to follow it through. And it's a weird place to be in. And this kind of goes into, I guess, when I'm sharing this experience of like, when you're cultivating your own path, I was led where I was led for a reason. There is a necessity to trust that. And that's a part of staying, like, I guess, grounded, or maybe it is like an illusioned sense of control. I've thought about it in a variety of different ways, but I knew there was so much that I knew and just didn't, like, I victimized myself. And it was like, well, why was I doing that to myself? Like, but then like fighting at the same time. It was a very clusterfuck of an experience to process, of like what happened and why couldn't the truth just be the truth. like this was all unnecessary. But it was absolutely, the unnecessary suffering was necessary because of the catalyst that it created. And so that for me, it's understanding that some of my worst decisions that I've ever made, that I trusted on blind faith, on genuine face value information. Like I was, I guess a mirror, but it's not so much that, because how would you, I don't fully know how to continue to describe that. Like, how lost am I getting? Probably very lost. So I'm trying to talk about transformation and this video that I posted, and I'm getting lost in explaining a lot of different things. I need to pause for a second. Okay, so I am so sorry if I lost everyone. I'm just gonna roll with it because I believe I was saying what I was saying for a reason. But I want to make sure I don't lose track of the point of the story, as I'm also trying to teach these principles. But I wanted to set a solid foundation for, I guess, like what it is that I'm talking about, where it is that I'm headed, and I hope that filled in some gaps. Because I'm referring to this video I posted on TikTok, and so I want to make sure that people are following all the breadcrumbs into what this part is. And so it was a reflection of me being a new person. But I posted an old version of me, and okay, so we're talking about death energy. And so how I put my old self, like self-righteous suicide is what it like comes to mind. I'm singing that verse of that song by System of a Down. I knowingly killed myself so that way I could be reborn this way. I could relate it to the biblical story of like Jesus and Judas. I think that is kind of what that is teaching. If I'm to give a biblical relation to it, a deconstructive Christian perspective, there's a variety of other storylines that you can go into, but a good way of explaining the role is through that. That's like the best story that I could think of. Because in describing, his name is Christopher, that was the catalyst that opened up a whole door of self-work that I don't know if I would have came to those same conclusions without such an intentional experience that was traumatizing and horrific. Like I said, it was war. And so it's making me nervous to talk about. And so I'm getting scattered in all of the emotions, and then the grounded aspect, like how do I stay safe in this? Because it's a vulnerable story. Because as I was talking about, like, I never thought something like this would happen to me. I always thought I was smarter than that. And there's a part of me that thinks that these people, because he wasn't the only one, he was just the one that like taught me how to see it. And that was like the game that I played, the co-creation with the universe, to like tie in some more loose ends of the rambling. But I allowed that man to hurt me. I allowed that man to kill my spirit for the spirit to be reborn. He was karmic. The more I've learned about like karmic energies and heard a variety of different perspectives of definitions and meditations and psilocybin, like microdosing therapy and things like that, because I had PTSD, and it was like, where did this PTSD come from? Because it's like, this was an abusive relationship. This was a fucked up experience, and I have to be honest with myself about it. I have to be honest with myself about what I allowed to have happen and why I allowed it to happen, and maybe like the also not so good reasons why I allowed it to happen. So I wasn't innocent. I don't want to express myself as innocent either. It's an interesting balance of what this was. And so as people saw in the video where I was just like, this is what I used to look like, and like I had not just a lot of acne, it was scars. Like the life was being sucked out of me. Like you could see it, you could feel it. There was definitely, like, I was not well. I was just trying to I was hanging on by a thread. And this was like I guess a stream of parasites, because I guess where there's one, there's more. And this is all metaphorical. This is all, in a spiritual healing for the psyche. It's not to accuse anyone. This is my perspective of just like how it felt. It felt like I couldn't get away. It was interesting, like what a trap it felt like, and then it also is interesting what strategy I was executing to make it out alive. And I don't know if that really makes sense, but I don't know a better way to explain it than what, again, this relationship was. I met him when I was 18, like literally a month after I graduated high school. And it seemed like a fairy tale, and I definitely fell into limerence. This is like potentially like a state of psychosis, but like at the same time, I don't know why it was so far-fetched for me to believe it. Like if people are inherently good, if I am trusting, if I am to be, loving and supportive and give you the benefit of the doubt, like I'm taking what you're saying at face value. I have always taken what people have said. Like, I think that's how you would say it. I've always trusted people. And that's like something my husband criticizes me on, because he doesn't trust anybody. And that's back to like what I was talking about earlier about like twin flames. My husband, that would be like a true twin flame in that sense, where it's different polar opposites than like that karmic, like view, like witnessing the worst sides of yourself kind of thing. So, like in a loving dynamic, my husband and I we do mirror like the wounds, but that's for healing, and you can see the difference of the nurture of that, where this other mirrored karmic engagement, this illusion of a twin flame, where I was like, it was the worst parts of me, it's the worst parts of my trauma. Like I wasn't who I wanted to be, and it was really weird how lost I got in this illusion of being a digestible version of myself. It was all of the make yourself smaller, cut here, twist there, like just not being able to just breathe. There was a lot of entrapment feelings and just dark energy, I guess. I don't fully understand like where it came from or what it is, but it's just trauma. That's just what the trauma feels like. It just felt so overwhelming. I absolutely drowned, and just sunk to the bottom of the ocean, where I finally died. It went down, my soul died, went down to the underworld. My soul was stolen. My mojo was, I was watching Austin Powers last night, and that's a humorous way of looking at it in a cosmic joke, but there is like a seriousness of the grief of like what I felt like was stolen from me, in essence, not just from this man, but just a betrayal of love that I've given, because it was a repetitive cycle, and that I said, that was the tipping point of it. I just it's the ugly truth of how you get lost in somebody and something else, and it was two completely different experiences, and that is really weird to me, to realize just how different the perception between this man and I was, between Christopher and I, or between Nick and I, because there's like a connection there. There's a Taurus connection, I think all three, but two, I know for sure two of like my most traumatic relationships was with Tauruses. And my mom is a Taurus moon. My moon is a Leo moon in the second house, so ruled by Taurus. So you can see these just spiritual challenges. So that's like the neutralization of it. Like, this is a part of the story. This is just how it was written. This is the game. This is your soul contract. You had to go through these things in order to level up, and you had to fight these monsters. You had to face these demons. Christopher represents the Taurus is second house. It's finances. It's other Venetian things: art, beauty, justice, hard work, discipline. There's a variety of different ways that you could archetype who this person was in my life, and reflect on, okay, well, what did that teach me? What was the root of it? You know, because then it always goes to like inner child healing and things like that. But he was an illusion. Like, I genuinely was like, yeah, you're older. Like, I did not think it was weird. I did not think it was predatory for me to be 18 and have this 30-year-old interact with me in the way that he did. And then, because like we didn't do anything, like that's when I met him. He saved me from the pit. I was getting my fucking ass kicked. I was at the pit. It was Devil Driver and Carnifex, and my friend and I were at the pit. Friends, there's multiple of us, but specifically Brandy. And her and I were the girls dying, and it was fun. You wanted to be front row. It was just, for me, it was about creating the experience. I just wanted to live, and that was like one of the few releases of freedom that I had, was going to a concert, just listening to music, raging out or whatever. I loved going to concerts, still do. My ears, I have definitely learned some hard lessons there. So I don't get to experience as much, but so when I meet this band guy, I'm like, yeah, man, like I'm genuinely, this is like a part of who I am. And that was what was weird, is I was trying to be genuine the whole time and show him our relativity. And I think he thought that I was just trying to impress him. And I was like, well, no, I'm being honest about things. But then he's also like, well, I always took it as, well, you know what? I kind of never really thought about it that deeply. So I took it as like, well, let's think about it. Like, why not? Like, do I really like this? Is this really like a part of who I am? And then I would kind of like try to have those conversations. I don't really think I did. I'm very much in my head about a lot of things. So I don't always know how much I shared, but then I also feel like I overshared with him. Like, I've tried to figure out that like so much of how I handled the situation, trying to advocate for myself, trying to be reasonable and understanding, dealing with all of these lies. So that was, I would be like, okay, like there's so much shit. And I was like, it never was aware. That I just didn't have to deal with it. Like that I could say, you know what, fuck, go away. Because every time like he broke up with me, or I don't know how to really describe that, because it was a situationship. There was so much gray area, and I was just trying to figure. I'm like, dude, what is going on? I really struggled with dealing with things, and so like, because again, he would break up with me, it would blow up, it would be a problem. I would be trying to talk to someone else or date someone else. I was still out there living my life, but then I would have these obsessive thoughts, and I was like, what is that? And there's a video I watched about parasitic karmic attachments, and that it was something that they meant that was like a sign of it. And it really it kind of clicked something for me, because I was like, why was I so obsessed with this? I mean, we had a lot in common, like, because like there was a lot of logic to it. Like, I really fucking thought it through, And I was like, well, if what you're saying to me and what I'm saying to you, 2 + 2 = 4. You know, like I was like, okay. But again, the intention, the context, there was so much that was just miscommunicated, and I didn't interpret. It's like that famous like Key and Peele skit where they're texting each other, yeah man, whatever, and like getting hyped up. Like I don't think we were having the same conversation, and I don't have anything anymore. I have gone through a series of purging, but I did have to save. I saved all this stuff, and I don't know. I knew I needed to save it. I'm a hoarder of things because I am deeply reflective on my life, and so through revisiting things, I was able to see things clearly. I was like, oh, this is what I know that I meant, but like I missed a lot of cues here. Because I think that one of the best ways to heal is not to blame yourself and like really put yourself down, but have relentless accountability. Just like, yeah, no, you know what? Like, maybe he lied. I could paint him to be a monster, but here he lied here. I know he lied here. Here's my evidence for him lying here, or whoever lying here. But you know, okay, whatever. I can just be like, hey, I misunderstood that. I need to be more clear. Like I always just took things and I guess transmuted it into bettering myself. But I don't know. It becomes like a really weird dynamic of things. But yeah, couldn't get away from him, and that was part of how I moved to Michigan, which I was fucking miserable. Anyone who knows that I was so miserable in Michigan, but like I just couldn't. I couldn't go home, and I had to face this decision for myself. And that was a big part of the transformation process. And so in the video, the vlog, when I used to do like the ghost hunting things, and I was just living my life, you know, because I moved away, and that was so freeing in itself. Like there's a lot of gratitude for the experience because I followed it, and it freed me ultimately. In so many different ways. And so like I was able to go, like I always loved going to spooky places. That was something I always wanted to do. And so I was looking up all the haunted places in Michigan. I was taking myself on little vacations, and I was really trying to like just feel alive with pouring into the things that I love to do. And I did it sad. Something that was like really hard for me is that not a lot of people around me, like people couldn't accept that I was like, hey, just either let me be sad and let me be sad like in private, because people hated it. I was like, I don't mind going out and doing things sad, but I feel like if you genuinely love me, like you're gonna let me be here sad. Like you're gonna let me like process my emotion and feel what I'm feeling while I'm still experiencing my life. So like, you know, I was vlogging, and like with my, like I was showing my face, like, yeah, you know, like I usually have like some makeup on, and people don't always see this, but no, like I struggle with acne, and like that again, like you could just see I was unhealthy. As healthy as I was fighting to be, I was unhealthy in so many ways. My spirit was unhealthy. There was things just draining me, and so, but I was still pushing through. I was still fighting through it anyway, and that's why I give myself like a lot of grace, a lot of love, and I somehow figured it out. I somehow made it through. I just fumbled a lot, and there was a lot of things that, like I said, unnecessary. It didn't have to be learned that way, but it did, because it's so solidified in my psyche, and it's a big part of the story. It's created so many beautiful things, so much poetry that I don't know if I would have had without it, but I don't want to be attached to my suffering. I don't want to have to suffer to create. I think that there was a trope because of how much I love Edgar Allan Poe, and I think that there is that like identity in the starving artist, and Christopher he didn't mirror that. He wasn't starving by any means, but he, you know, he worked at Kroger, and he was like in the bands, and he was doing this. Like, he inspired me, and I think I inflated his ego, but like, I'm not afraid to deny how much he inspired me. But it made him mad. I really don't understand just how fucked up it was. But then I, like, in my lunar memoirs, like, I get into so many different like memories that like haunt me and pop up, and like I have these like, I guess, flashbacks of things that I guess, like, I would say, like, the more you heal, the more you learn different things. Having faith in the principle and the philosophy of these psychological principles. It's like, okay, well, this was abuse. I have to admit that I was groomed. This was abuse. This was like a really icky situation, and it didn't have to be this way. This man could have been honest with me and been like, hey, yeah, like, you're young and hot. I don't want to take you seriously. He could have broken my heart in a better way. You know what I mean? Like, there was different ways to learn the lesson. And then there's lessons for me to not, like, you don't force something. But I genuinely didn't think I was forcing it. I just was like, I was trying to problem solve. Like, the conflict that we were having, I didn't have the intention of it being a war where someone had to win. It was, how do we make a solution? Like, okay, I respect your feelings. How do we figure this out? And there were so many opportunities where you could have told me to, like, very seriously leave you alone, and I feel like he tried to tell me that, but how he handled it left a lot of confusion. He was not clear. It was so fucking weird. It was so confusing. I really didn't know what decisions to make half the time. I was like, well, if you're this person, I couldn't trust him. He switched up on me so much. And I always felt like just walking on eggshells, and I was like, I don't know how to act around you because I don't know when I'm going to set you off. And what that's going to mean. Like, you're not going to talk to me, you're going to block me, like, but you supposedly care about me. Because when I tell you you don't fucking care about me, when I get really upset and I try to tell you, like, you're hurting me, it's like, you don't get to tell me how I feel. It's just all the fucking things. So these people, they feed off of you, and then you're just trying to love them through it with the intention of harmony and resolution, not realizing the resolution is to tell them to go fuck themselves. Like, that just, I don't know. Sometimes that just never occurred to me to be the conclusion. Because of the benefit of the doubt that I insisted on providing. But that's why I call him Judas, because, like, Jesus, supposedly, the story goes that Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him. He saw it all along, and he let him follow through with it, because then he was crucified, which I have been fucking crucified so many times in my life. And then reborn. So we're in Scorpio season, right? So that's like life, death, rebirth. That's the phoenix. That is all of those transformation energies. So I had a knowing, and I have to acknowledge that side of me, that, because I would tell people, be like, dude, I have to commit to letting this play out. Like, I really struggled with, like, I don't know, people thought I was dumb. It's like, why don't you just, it was a mission of some kind. Like, I had to battle the karmic entity. I had to face that. And then through that was a lot of chaos. And, like, unhealthy processing, which then led me backwards into, because it went up, right? It got huge, and then it's getting back to the core root of the problem. So the tree blew up, right? The tree of life blew up, but then you gotta get back down to the roots of it. So this is like the subconscious, the unconscious. This is where it goes into the inner child, which would be my mother, and that, again, that Taurus representation, because she's a Leo moon, or Leo sun with a Taurus moon, and I am a Aquarius sun, but I have a Leo moon. So my mom's sun sign in my moon, so there's a shadow aspect, and then in Taurus. So you see that bridge of processing the astrology, which, as skeptical as I really try to be, it slaps you in the face every fucking time. And so it's just kind of seeing how that, like, understanding, okay, what do I need to face here? Because I started mirroring destructive tendencies, self-sabotagery, another karmic energy, another wounded energy, which was my mother, and like how I was, through that wounding, then embracing some of my worst fears, which was living the same life that my mother lived. And that's not to be hateful to my mom. My mom suffered a lot. I didn't want to suffer. I didn't want to be divorced. I desperately wanted true love. I wanted the fairy tale. I wanted all the good things that anyone would dream of having. I don't think anyone dreams of suffering. And so I think, like, talking about it, you know, it's like, I don't want to make the same decisions my mom made. I don't want to be self-destructive. I feel like my mom's very self-destructive, but there's also so many good parts of my mom, and some of the good is her, like, there is good in her self-destruction, but it's undisciplined. And so again, that shadow integration, and it just kept going down the line. But I had to make that decision to face that, and through the heartbreak, and then through about a good solid year at least, but probably closer to 2 years. 2 years of just fucking self-destructive behavior. I like to tell people, I'm not that proud of it, but it's just, I was trying to kill myself without killing myself, because suicide's a sin, and not really. I just, I would say I didn't have the guts to do it. I was afraid of, I was afraid of giving up, but I really wanted to. And so it's like, well, maybe if I can then just, be self-destructive and have an accidental death, then it's a tragedy, there is this, and I'm being humorous in that, because that's in reflection. That's essentially what it was. People told me, you're being self-destructive, you need to find God, and you need to go to therapy. So I started spiritual practices, and that can go into my next video, which I want to talk about, which is my spiritual background, and all of that. But that is how that transformation led me to spirituality, which is then where you see this other transformation, because through the breakup there was a transformation in that, and even that self-destructive behavior, all of those moments through those 2 years of some chaos. Chad calls it my red hair era. For those who know, I look back at her. I had a lot of fun. She was wild, but it was freedom for the first time, and then it was also learning the balance of freedom and discipline, and learning how I actually want that to look like for myself, which I was able to structure through these spiritual lenses and connecting to the metaphors and archetypes and parables that are in mythology and theology, philosophy, and all of the above. But yeah, so I think that kind of wraps that up. One of my greatest enemies, my greatest villains, like that Lady Gaga song Judas, where she's like, I'm still in love with Judas. I understand. I have an Aries South node, so there's some astrology in the South Pole being a karmic thing. So you can see where it's I'm just a horny fool, and baby, you're so cruel. Because I'm still in love with Judas, because I genuinely loved him. There was so much love that I was pouring out. and trying to show, like, or prove. So there's that, like, golden child, like, you gotta prove, you gotta earn love. Like, no, like, I am who I say I am. Like, please believe me. Like, why don't you believe that I am this way? But it wasn't what he wanted. There's so much into that, but it was definitely a trap. And I tried to be clear. Like, I told him, I was like, dude, I have a lot of anxiety and trust issues, man. And that's what hurt the most, is he told me, don't worry, I will prove to you that people can be trusted, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing it. That was another thing that I would I screenshotted it and I would reread it constantly. Because I was like, he promised me, to me that was a vow. Not in like a weird marriage sense, like, you know, to add to the crazy groupie theory that is out there, but what, like, hey, you initiated this interaction with me and you want to take it to this level, and I told you, like, yeah, just don't fucking lie to me. Like, at 19 when things started, I was very much a realist of like, dude, if you just want to fuck me, like, I could be cool with that, which is not like the classiest belief structure, but that is where I was at, like, where I was like, dude, I'm cool with this being fun. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm headed. Like, I kept him in the loop of decision-making processes, and I thought we were problem solving, co-creating something together and figuring it out and just making the best of it with our situation, because he always redirected to, I want you, I care about you, blah, blah, blah. He could have told me not to go to Michigan. Like, there's just all of these things. But it happened this way, because then I met my husband, who I never would have gone to Michigan any other way. I firmly believe we still would have found each other. But I think that this led us to finding each other at the most perfect divine time. And all because, like, again, so where Chad has mirrored that experience, you can see his divine masculine dancing in co-creation and balance and harmony in a twin flame relationship, because it alchemizes into healing. And so you want to make sure that you understand finding that partner. But sometimes it takes battling that karmic to learn to then channel right into what you wanted. Because, like, I found Chad, I had started doing lunar rituals, I had started with spirituality, started with meditation, I started with all of these experiences, and I made a pact with myself to anchor in my truth and be clear, and no matter how hard it is, say, let go. And I have met Chad with the same, like, intention over and over again, over every conflict that arises in our life and our relationship, and all the healing that comes through. And like, that's, sorry, I kind of fucked that up, but that's what comes through is healing. Because I met him once I made that pact with myself, and then through honoring that pact with myself, you see that's the discipline, right? That's the flow in honoring the balances of, like, the magic, the spell work, the discipline of spell work is kind of like my main point in that. And I think I'm kind of getting lost in other spiritual principles. I really do want to wrap this up, but it's just, there's so much that I could talk about and share about that experience, and what those seeds were that I planted, and how they've blossomed, and how, I guess, how you can trust those intuitive calls, and how you can see how magic and intention plays out in life. And, like, I am proving it to myself. Like I said, I've gone into all of this skeptical, but if this is the principle, if this is the experience, and this is the wisdom and the reflection that I'm coming to, there's a lot of love and gratitude here, because the worst things that ever happened, every tower moment came the star. And that's, I think, you know, I'm an Aquarius, stellium in the 8th house. I tell people that all the time. I feel like that's a huge connection of tower and star energy, even that might upset some tarot people, but I can feel that, like, alchemy, you have to, in order to be the star, you have to be able to power through this. And then I also feel like that could be significant Capricorn energy because you have the devil, which is funny because I called Chad the devil, but he was not. Or he is in a different way because he taught me to break my own chains. And you can get in lots more symbolism of the story. I could tell the story over and over in a variety of different ways. It's never ending. The train of thought that keeps going. To conclude, those who are still following and listening and all of the above, the transformation process was ugly. It was cruel. It was feeling that pain, the somatic release of it all, necessary. Going through those ugly stages of growth, the purging, the shedding of the leaves. Because we're in the year of the snake, right? So the shedding of the skin. And so I have shed so much energy, so much skin, all of the above. That's Kundalini energy. There's a lot of synchronistic flows and connections that I could elaborate on. But to continue to try to conclude, because I don't know how to end this, that is how I started the transformation process, or that is one of the transformations. Because again, I went through my red hair era, and then, you know, that was a whole iconic expression of things. So this transformation, I think people who would recall a few of my Party City Witch transformation moments of being canceled on the internet, where I was having one of those low ugly moments, where all the judgment, all the things, that was again a catalyst for this transformation here. So committing to the bit, following your intuition, going through it all, the humiliation ritual, symbolism of, again, the Capricorn or the left-hand path of going against the grain. There's all the different things, but that is part of my lore and my story, and what people are recognizing, oh, you're a whole new person. Yeah, I went from being in a very unhealthy environment and learning a clusterfuck of things from that to being swept away into a healthy, nurturing environment where I've been able to take the time to heal myself and pour into myself and just follow my joy. That's all I'm trying to do, is do things that make me happy. And I love talking about spirituality and theology and philosophy. I like thinking about consciousness and psychology. I love studying humans. There's a lot of academia behind my observations of the world. I want to be a respected occult scientist, despite my quirkiness and and all of the above. But yeah, so that is that's part of the journey. That is to bridge that and kind of explain all of that, because that's, like I said, all of that was a layer of a moment in a chapter of my life, a book in my life that has, it's interesting how it's closed, but then because so that would be the infinity symbol, right? So there's parts of it. It was part one, and then the conclusion of it. So there's the story, the cycle of 9. I'm 29, and so this is very also Saturn energy, numerology, closing it out. Sorry, I don't know if people care. I think I'm just getting lost in some of my own realizations in real time. It's very symbolic of a cycle closure and ending. And on Halloween, I talked about how she was finally dead. She got her wish. She got her wish. She died, and I did. I died in a variety of ways, and I don't know. It's crazy to say, oh, I was reborn. There is definitely new energy. All kinds of different things. I'm definitely embarking on something new, and I'm excited to float around and see where I'm being led. But that was a part of what led me to half of where I am now. But as far as being on the internet or these physical changes, I don't recognize myself in a lot of ways, but again, that familiarity of being who I've always wanted to be. So that, and I think that that is the conclusion of inner child healing, as we, especially we're moving into Sagittarius energy, which there's like a bridge there and an inner child connection within that as well. But yeah, I think like when you finally feel like yourself again, and shedding all of these identities, facing all of these fears, doing the thing that I want to do the least, which is talking about this stuff, sharing it online. Like it's embarrassing for me to I don't want to feel performative, I don't want to be judged, but this is part of the calling, right? To share the experience and how you alchemize it, to teach people magic and to heal the dogma within spiritual practices, and for there to be a rebirth of the connection to the spirit world, which reminds me of Avatar Korra, the Legend of Korra, I believe. I think that's kind of like what that's supposed to represent. So anyway, that's kind of what I hope to do. Is I want to give a genuine, grounded perspective and realistic application to spiritual principles. And I've been told by a variety of different things to lead by example. So I can't lead by example if I don't tell people what I've been through and sit in that embarrassment and vulnerability. And also just being real. This is what it would be like to have a conversation with me in person. And I need to love myself, show some love to myself by not being afraid to be that way in the world. And if you don't like it, if you don't get it, that has to be okay. And so with that being said, enjoy my story time. Thanks for going on this weird journey with me. And I hope that there is something healing and positive in there for all who listened. All right. Thanks for drinking some moon juice. What a trippy ride.